The complex dynamics of modern relationships often hinge on a delicate balance of trust, shared goals, and individual autonomy. Yet few subjects ignite as much unspoken tension as the management of personal finance. For generations, the traditional blueprint of marriage dictated an absolute convergence of assets, an unquestioned merging of checking accounts, savings, and debts into a single shared economic unit. This financial union was long viewed not merely as a practical arrangement, but as a symbolic declaration of total commitment, a foundational pillar upon which a lifelong partnership was supposed to be built. However, as the contemporary economic landscape evolves, this deeply ingrained societal expectation is facing unprecedented scrutiny from a new generation of couples who question whether merging money truly fosters harmony or if it silently breeds resentment. The foundational concept of marital unity is being actively re-examined under the microscope of individual financial habits, distinct income disparities, and deeply contrasting philosophies on spending and saving. When two individuals come together with entirely different financial upbringings, varying levels of debt, and distinct material desires, the forcing of these disparate elements into a single bank account can transform a romantic partnership into a psychological battlefield. One partner might find deep emotional security in a growing savings account, meticulously tracking every single expenditure and viewing frugality as a virtue, while the other might perceive money as a fluid tool for immediate experience and personal enjoyment, favoring regular, spontaneous spending. These deeply rooted psychological approaches to capital are rarely altered by a marriage certificate, and when forced into a shared financial bucket, they frequently lead to silent friction, micromanagement, and an exhausting cycle of justification. The modern discussion surrounding this quiet domestic struggle has broken through the walls of private households and entered the mainstream consciousness, prompting many to wonder if the secret to a lasting union actually lies in maintaining absolute financial independence. By keeping earnings, debts, and discretionary spending entirely separate, an increasing number of couples claim to have discovered a pathway to mutual respect that completely bypasses the traditional arguments over daily transactions and long-term financial control. This paradigm shift challenges the very core of what society has taught us about romance and partnership, forcing an uncomfortable but necessary conversation about autonomy in the modern age. As we delve deeper into this unfolding societal shift, it becomes crucial to examine the real-world experiences of those who have dared to defy the traditional marital norms and opted for a segregated financial life. The implications of this choice ripple far beyond simple bookkeeping, touching upon themes of power dynamics, individual freedom, and the psychological weight of shared responsibility in a volatile world. Before we fully uncover the fascinating mechanics of how these modern partnerships navigate the complexities of separate wealth and the surprising cultural backlash that often follows such non-traditional choices, take a moment to engage with this ongoing investigation. If you find value in these deep explorations of contemporary social shifts and the hidden structures shaping our daily lives, please consider subscribing to the channel to ensure you never miss our upcoming investigative reports. The evolution of modern marriage is only one facet of a rapidly changing cultural landscape, and your support allows us to continue bringing these multi-layered stories to light with the depth and context they truly deserve. The pressure to conform to traditional financial expectations remains immense, often reinforced by legal systems, banking institutions, and older generations who view separate accounts as a sign of imminent relationship failure or a lack of genuine trust. Yet, the stories emerging from the vanguard of this financial revolution suggest a completely different reality, one where autonomy actually strengthens the emotional bond rather than weakening it. In the segments to follow, we will pull back the curtain on this financial phenomenon, examining the specific friction points that drive couples to this decision, the unique challenges they face from judgmental peers, and how this trend intersects with broader cultural movements. We will look closely at the personal testimonies of those who have navigated this path, exploring the precise mechanisms they use to split household expenses without losing their individual identities in the process. The transition from collective wealth to structured independence is rarely smooth, and it opens up a fascinating window into the human psyche, revealing how deeply our identities are tied to the money we earn and spend. As we prepare to transition into the core details of this modern dilemma, the question remains whether separate finances are a pragmatic shield against the high statistics of marital discord, or if they represent a fundamental retreat from the ideal of total partnership. The answer is far from simple, and the deeper we look into the realities of contemporary domestic life, the more apparent it becomes that the old rules no longer apply to a world defined by individual career trajectories and diverse financial backgrounds. The practical realities of attempting to blend two distinct financial lives become starkly apparent when looking at the specific case studies of modern couples who have chosen to actively reject the traditional model of joint banking. For instance, the experiences shared by lifestyle writers and media contributors like Evie Carrick highlight a growing counter-narrative to the age-old assumption that marriage requires a total merger of capital. When individuals enter a legal union today, they often bring with them established careers, independent financial habits, and significant pre-existing liabilities such as student loans, car notes, or credit card debt. Forcing these complex individual financial histories into a single shared account often introduces immediate, structural inequality into the relationship, particularly if one partner earns substantially more or possesses a vastly different approach to material consumption. In a traditional joint structure, every single purchase becomes a matter of mutual oversight, which can inadvertently create a toxic dynamic where one partner feels entitled to police the spending of the other, or conversely, where one partner feels constantly judged for their lifestyle choices. By opting to maintain separate checking and savings accounts, couples are establishing a clear boundary that treats each partner as an autonomous adult responsible for their own financial destiny while still contributing to a shared life. This approach transforms financial management from an emotional minefield of constant negotiation and micromanagement into a clean logistical framework where joint expenses like rent, mortgages, and groceries are handled via a structured formula or a secondary, dedicated joint account used strictly for household bills. This preservation of financial agency allows individuals to spend their discretionary income on personal passions, hobbies, or investments without needing to seek permission or face silent resentment from their spouse. The psychological relief reported by those who adopt this method is immense, as it effectively removes the number one cause of marital arguments from the daily routine, replacing suspicion with structured clarity. However, this shift toward individual financial autonomy in relationships is occurring simultaneously with other major cultural flashpoints, where public perception, professional expectations, and digital communication collide with devastating speed. The volatility of modern professional life and the unforgiving nature of public scrutiny are vividly demonstrated when looking beyond the domestic sphere and into the high-stakes world of sports and entertainment media, where a single misstep can instantly dismantle a career. This reality became extraordinarily clear in the sports entertainment industry when social media influencer and media personality Addison Rae faced an immediate and severe public backlash following a controversial announcement regarding her role with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The situation unfolded rapidly when the high-profile digital creator publicly announced that she had secured a position as a specialized correspondent for the major mixed martial arts organization, a revelation that was met with intense criticism from both fans and seasoned sports journalists alike. The core of the public outrage centered on the perception that an internet celebrity with no formal training, background, or established expertise in the highly nuanced and dangerous world of combat sports was being elevated to a prestigious broadcasting position over qualified, hard-working journalists who had dedicated their careers to the sport. The tension escalated dramatically due to a specific social media post by the creator, which many viewed as deeply disrespectful and obnoxious, as it appeared to trivialize the immense effort and professional dedication required to operate within the intense journalism ecosystem of the fighting world. In the face of this massive wave of digital backlash, the sports organization was forced to pivot rapidly, leading to the immediate termination of the correspondent arrangement and demonstrating just how fragile professional opportunities can be in an era dominated by instant public feedback and reputational risk. This swift corporate reaction underscores a broader cultural shift where institutions are increasingly sensitive to the immediate demands and moral outcries of digital audiences, proving that fame alone is no longer an absolute shield against professional accountability. The rapid rise and fall of this specific media opportunity highlights the immense pressure under which modern public figures operate, where the boundary between authentic engagement and perceived disrespect is razor-thin. This incident serves as a powerful case study in the volatile mechanics of modern celebrity culture, revealing how quickly public admiration can sour into widespread condemnation when an individual is perceived to have overstepped professional boundaries or trivialized a respected field. As these distinct narratives of personal autonomy, public accountability, and institutional pressure begin to intertwine, they paint a complex picture of a society grappling with changing rules of engagement across both private relationships and public platforms. The underlying tension in both scenarios stems from a fundamental conflict between traditional systems of merit and trust versus new, highly individualized ways of navigating economic and professional environments. The domestic struggle to maintain financial identity within a marriage mirrors the public struggle to maintain professional credibility in an increasingly hyper-connected and judgmental world. In both cases, the traditional frameworks are failing to contain the complexities of modern individual ambitions, leading to friction, public debates, and a profound re-evaluation of what it means to participate responsibly in a shared space, whether that space is a household or a global media platform. The momentum of these cultural shifts suggests that the old ways of establishing credibility and unity are being permanently rewritten by a generation that values flexibility, transparency, and personal accountability above all else, forcing both corporations and romantic partners to adapt to a far more demanding and unforgiving landscape. The profound intersection of individual accountability, institutional response, and public pressure reaches its most intense and troubling manifestation when examining the global stage of international sports, where personal identity and national representation collide. The ultimate consequences of public scrutiny and collective emotional volatility were starkly illustrated during the high-stakes aftermath of the Euro Soccer Championship, an event that transcended the boundaries of athletic competition to expose deep-seated societal fractures. Following a heartbreaking and intensely watched loss in the final match, several prominent members of England's national soccer team became the immediate targets of a massive coordinated wave of racist vitriol and digital harassment across multiple mainstream media platforms. This disturbing outbreak of hostility did not occur in a vacuum. Rather, it was directed with specific, targeted malice at the young athletes who bore the immense psychological burden of executing the critical, game-deciding penalty kicks during the final moments of the tournament. The rapid escalation of this online abuse demonstrated how quickly public adoration can devolve into primitive tribalism and vicious scapegoating when collective national expectations are suddenly frustrated on the global stage. The individuals at the center of this storm, young men who had spent their entire lives training to represent their country at the absolute highest level of physical excellence, were suddenly forced to navigate a hostile digital environment filled with overt racial slurs, dehumanizing imagery, and direct threats to their personal safety and well-being. This widespread hostility prompted an immediate, severe condemnation from sporting institutions, political figures, and civil rights organizations worldwide, sparking an urgent international dialogue regarding the responsibility of social media conglomerates to actively police and eliminate hate speech on their networks. The biographies and personal trajectories of these athletes reveal a profound narrative of resilience, as many of them had risen from working-class backgrounds and marginalized communities, overcoming systemic socioeconomic barriers to become symbols of a modern, diverse, and multicultural nation. To see these national icons so rapidly transformed into targets of racialized anger by a vocal segment of their own fan base exposed the fragile nature of public acceptance and the toxic undercurrents that still persist within modern sports culture. This specific crisis forced a massive reevaluation of the psychological support systems provided to professional athletes, highlighting the necessity of protecting young public figures from the devastating mental health impacts of systemic digital harassment. The systemic response to this vitriol also catalyzed a broader legal and corporate push to hold anonymous online actors accountable for their behavior, shifting the conversation from a simple sporting disappointment to a critical fight for human dignity and civil protections in the digital age. When we look at these three seemingly disparate cultural narratives, the domestic rebellion against joint marital finances, the rapid professional termination of an internet celebrity in sports journalism, and the toxic racial backlash against national soccer players, a powerful, unifying theme begins to crystallize. Each of these scenarios fundamentally represents a critical breaking point where traditional, collective structures are failing to safely accommodate and protect the autonomy and diversity of the modern individual. Whether it is a husband and wife fighting to maintain their personal financial agency against centuries of marital tradition, a trained journalist demanding that professional standards be respected over digital fame, or a minority athlete demanding to be treated with basic human decency regardless of a game's outcome, the core struggle remains identical. We are living in an era where the old rules of absolute conformity, unquestioned institutional loyalty, and collective identity are being systematically challenged by a global populace that demands nuance, transparency, and personal accountability. The traditional frameworks that once governed our private households, our media landscapes, and our massive sporting arenas are being forced to adapt to an environment where individuals refuse to be erased by the systems they inhabit. The resolution of these ongoing cultural conflicts will ultimately dictate how future generations balance the need for community, partnership, and national unity with the equally vital requirement of individual freedom, respect, and safety. As these stories continue to unfold and shape the global consciousness, they serve as an explicit reminder that progress is never linear, and the structures we build must constantly evolve to reflect the true complexity of the human experience.